Hey everyone, I'm doing something a little bit different today because we are on family vacation. We're staying at a beautiful house near Niagara-in-the-Lake, Ontario. It's been really lovely, and on the property there is this beautiful secret garden, it's called, which I've taken some shots of for this video and I'm currently filming in. It's more or less quiet. You can hear the birds chirping, which is wonderful. Unfortunately, you can also hear cars driving by, so there might be a bit of background noise in this video. But I just wanted to share some of the books that I picked up at my favorite bookstore in the area, which is in Niagara-in-the-Lake. Now, this bookstore is so well curated. It's full of classics, of biographies, history books, art books, classic children's literature. It's just got everything that I love, and I feel so inspired and excited every time I go in there. And I've been there, like upwards of 5 times now, and every time there's a little old lady sitting at her old wooden desk. She's very old school. She doesn't take credit or debit card. She literally handwrites them down and like mails them into the credit card companies or something. She doesn't actually have a machine. She's very old. She's got to be in her 80s, and we asked her how long she's been running this bookstore. She said 55 years. So I'm assuming that she owns it and that it's her day job. She comes in, she sits at her desk, and she sells books, and very well curated books. And in the background there's classical music playing, and it's just the best. It's so inspiring. I was like, I want to be this old lady one day, having run a bookstore for that long, of books that you really care about and are passionate about and have carefully curated for readers. So I think that's just fantastic. And so, of course, when Zach and I went there on a little date, we ended up buying a good amount of books, and I want to show you those books today. So, first of all, I bought this medieval notebook. It looks like a medieval illuminated manuscript. Okay, I moved to the pool deck because it was way too loud in that secret garden. There's just too many cars on the road and it's driving me nuts. And I might have the same problem here. Actually, you can hear the pool filter machine thingy going, so my apologies if there's a lot of background noise in this video, but I still want to do this outside because it's just such a beautiful day, and if I go inside, there's people there, and that's also not conducive to filming. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you these books right here. As I was saying, this is my illuminated medieval manuscript-esque notebook that I picked up at the bookstore. It's just lined paper inside, but it was the cover that really got me. I just think it's so beautiful, and I hope to take this along on our travels to Scotland, to the UK this summer, as sort of my travel journal where I can jot down any thoughts that I might have. So yeah, that's that. The Faerie Queene by Edmund Spenser has been on my list for some time. This is a thick book. This will be one that I have to sit with and work through very slowly, and I've already peeked inside. It's a series of cantos. It's poetry, and so I don't think this is going to be the easiest read, but I think it'll be a profoundly beautiful one. Again, this book influenced C.S. Lewis, and I'm really curious to see why that was. I also got this collection of stories by Washington Irving. I bought it for Rip Van Winkle, but ended up loving some of the other stories much more, actually. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow was excellent. The Spectre Bridegroom and the Pride of the Village were also very moving and romantic. But honestly, it was Mount Joy that really caught my attention the most, because it's about a young man who becomes completely enamored with poetry and philosophy and sort of these higher things, these higher ways of thinking and expression, and it makes him really arrogant. And then he meets a girl who actually knows more, is better educated than himself, and he falls in love with her and with the image of her and with being in love, but then has to grapple with the fact that in that relationship, he might not be the wisest, most well-educated one, or even the greatest appreciator of poetry and music and philosophy and these things. It's really interesting. I just found the young Mountjoy and his passions really relatable, so I wanted to read this short passage from the story Mountjoy. This is Washington Irving. As I advanced in years, this turn of mind increased upon me and became more confirmed. I abandoned myself to the impulses of a romantic imagination which controlled my studies and gave a bias to all my habits. My father observed me continually with a book in my hand and satisfied himself that I was a profound student. But what were my studies? Works of fiction, tales of chivalry, voyages of discovery, travels in the East, everything, in short, that partook of adventure and romance. I well remember with what zest I entered upon that part of my studies which treated of the heathen mythology, and particularly of the sylvan deities. Then indeed my school books became dear to me. The neighborhood was well calculated to foster the reveries of a mind like mine. It abounded with solitary retreats, wild streams, solemn forests, and silent valleys. I would ramble about for a whole day with a volume of Ovid's Metamorphoses in my pocket, and work myself into a kind of self-delusion, so as to identify the surrounding scenes with those of which I had just been reading. I would loiter about a brook that glided through the shadowy depths of the forest, picturing it to myself the haunt of naiads. I would steal round some bushy copse that opened upon a glade, as if I expected to come suddenly upon Diana and her nymphs, or to behold Pan and his satyrs abounding, with whoop and halloo, through the woodland. I would throw myself, during the panting heats of a summer noon, under the shade of some wide-spreading tree, and muse and dream away the hours in a state of mental intoxication. I drank in the very light of day as nectar, and my soul seemed to bathe with ecstasy in the deep blue of a summer sky. Yeah, I just think the story is about the literary life, the intellectual life, the life of the mind, the life of the imagination. And so if those themes interest you, I highly recommend Mountjoy by Washington Irving. Then we got The Adventures of Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi. I didn't even know that the Pinocchio tales, were this complex, were this long as to constitute a book and to be published by Oxford World's Classics, but this is perfect if you're interested in reading some fairy tales, some folk tales, and understanding where some of our modern fairy tales come from. This is very different than the Walt Disney version, but yeah, it's a beautiful example of an Italian fairy tale that has become a part of our popular imagination. So far I'm very much enjoying it. And finally, Zach actually picked this one out. It's Moby Dick by Herman Melville, with a foreword by Nathaniel Philbrick, who's a historian that I admire. And Zach is absolutely loving it so far. He's about a sixth of the way in, and he's just eating it up. And I've been peeping over his shoulder, looking at the pages, and I'm like, this looks like it's going to really interest me too. Moby Dick is one of those classics that you hear really mixed reviews about, and I feel like I've heard many people say that they don't enjoy it for whatever reason. I think anyone who really loves the ocean or appreciates, the life of a sailor, the nautical life, those sorts of themes and that sort of lifestyle, which includes me. There's nothing I love more than being in a seaside town, listening to the waves, listening to the seagulls, going out on the water. There's something so charming and romantic about that. Anyways, I'm really struggling to talk out here. I just feel like it's so noisy and this video is not going to turn out very great. But those are the books that we picked up this weekend. In terms of what I've been reading over the weekend, I've been reading The Medieval Mind of C.S. Lewis, How Great Books Shaped a Great Mind by Jason M. Baxter. This book is fantastic. It's very heady, so I'm moving through it quite slowly, sort of taking it a chapter at a time and taking really good notes in my notebook. So that's been fun. And also jotting down quotes in my commonplace book here, which is filling up. And I've been reading through Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell, which has had some, just lovely sort of domestic moments so far. I'm quite enjoying it. It hasn't been mind-blowing or anything, but it's been quite lovely, nostalgic, comforting snippets of life in the town of Cranford, which is largely run by women. So it's been interesting. Well, I think I'm going to wrap up this video here. I was really hoping to do more with it. I was hoping to share a very exciting book that I got in the mail, which is a collection of writings by a Dutch woman named Anna-Maria van Schurman, who is really interesting, who really interests me, and I'm hoping to study her in some capacity for my master's in history, and ideally, incorporate her into my thesis and my topic of study. But I think I will have to save that for another day because I'm having a hard time finding quiet moments here on vacation, and I do need to spend some more time with family and stuff. So yeah, you can, if you're interested in that, you can look forward to that in another video. I'd also like to share some of my commonplace quotes with you guys, and maybe even turn that into a sort of video series where I do that more frequently, just share quotes that have moved me from the different pieces of literature that I read. So if that sounds like a good idea for a video series or something to include in vlogs, let me know. Anyways, thank you so much for being here and watching this video. Please leave a like, please leave a comment, and I will see you again very soon.